are back answering the question, should you live together before marriage? And we have our special guest, Marta Rocha, who is a relationship counselor. Thank you so much, Marta, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So it is, again, a couch divided. We have the two mothers who are saying, no, 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 commitment first before you, and then Z and I are kind of like, well, you've got to test the waters. You've got to see, I mean, is it worth a commitment? Like, what are we doing? In your relationship experience, what is the best way to go about this?
I think some of the points that you touch, it's all about communication. All the couples out there are struggling with that issue. We've been together for so many years now. What do we do? And a lot of them, they rationalize the next step. It's logical. We should be living together, and let's see if we're meant for each other. So what a lot of couples are doing is, okay, we've been together for a while, so let's give it a try. So that's kind of like the trend now that couples are shifting, and these are the couples that are in their 20s and their 30s, and these couples may have had parents who went through a divorce, so they actually don't want to go through that suffering all over again.
Right.
So they're holding themselves back, and they don't want to be losing anything. But okay, so we've been together for so long now, so what should we do? And that seems to be the logical step that I see couples taking. Some of them, it's because of money. But the reality is, it's not just about the money today. It's because they feel that it should be a test. We should try to see if we were meant to be together.
Because I know a marriage is only like a couple $100 if you go down to the courthouse. I mean, it's not that serious, but so people are actually doing what we said, Mother Corlia.
That does not make it right. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel that, and I'm sure because you get to see quite a few of these relationships, do you feel that when people live together, that they might be more likely to cheat on each other than people that are married?
We do hear a lot of that, and what happens is that when they're living together, that they're in a trial run, so they're not completely committed. So when we are doing, let's give this a trial, not for better or for worse. We're thinking this is just a trial, so there's not the boundary set from the beginning, and a lot of the stress that comes with being in a relationship. Whether or not you're married, you're going to have that stress, and I would say that a lot of research shows that couples that cohabitate, they have a higher incident of infidelity happening.
Well, then.
Exactly.
I'm so.
I just wanted to. You change your opinion. You know what I likened it to,
honey? You stay on the losing side.
When you said that, it made me think about how you have a trial size cereal or lotion, and they give it to you as a trial, and you use it, and then you throw it away. You're never going to use it again. So that's how I was looking at what you were saying in terms of relationships. As a trial run, there is no commitment at all. And one of the questions I had in reference to that was the respect level. Does it diminish for either the man more the woman more so in this relationship in cohabitating together? It's a trial run.
Meaning like the respect towards each other.
Right. Yeah. Like he's telling her, well, you're not my wife. And she's saying, well, you're not my husband either. You know, does it diminish, or you make her feel less of a woman because you're living with me? You know, I'm not married to you.
So it creates a lot of conflict because we didn't set the boundaries from the beginning of the relationship. Women, when they think about living together, they see it as the next step for a long-term commitment. And not to say that the majority of the men are like that, but some men will see it as, let's give this a try to see whether or not I want to make a commitment. So from the beginning, the woman is thinking, this is it. I'm committed. We're going to be together for a very long time, even if they haven't talked about marriage yet. And after a while, there will be some insecurity developing in a relationship.
Because you wonder when is it?
Okay, when is it going to happen? I can't believe he's coming and going whenever he pleases. Or the other way around, like she never calls me, I don't know what's going on in her life. And that's because we didn't have that talk. We didn't communicate about what our expectations are from the beginning. And part of us, at times, we feel like we don't want to share because we don't want to lose the person. I don't want to talk about my beliefs or all of my values from the beginning. So what we do is the respect is really towards ourselves, because we're not respecting ourselves. We're not respecting what we believe in and what our values are.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, my question is because I am, pro, cohabitating. So I wanted to know what are some of the pros of cohabitating before marriage, if that's what you want to do, which is marriage.
What I found for couples is that they see that as that in between of dating and marriage. So they have already that belief of a long-term commitment. So the couples that see that as a in between or as an alternative, it's because they're really committed. So they've been talking about it. They've been sharing what they want, what is important to them, the things that they're willing to compromise. So living together in a relationship that is healthy, that you feel like you're being supported by your partner, it helps increase your well-being, your better levels of being happy, feeling joy in your life. So, but the opposite is also true. If you're in a relationship that you feel like you're not committed and it's unhealthy, you have higher levels of distress, higher levels of depression too. So the pros would be, okay, we're in the between. That means that we're committed. So we've talked about it, and I'm going to give it my all to make this relationship work. So we're not in a trial. We're committed to each other.
If it's that route. But why is it so critical, this whole moving in part? Because it seems like it could either make or break or diminish or, I mean, why is it so critical?
It's I think it's critical because of that. We're kind of putting our relationship to the test. That's what we're doing. However, we're not really setting our expectations. So a lot of couples there might be young. It might be too soon.
Right.
They didn't have the chance to really date, get to know each other, really talk about, I like to say this is like the dating talks of what your beliefs are, what your values are, what is it that you would like in the future. And what happens at times is that they have very different views. So if you're in a relationship with someone who does not want to get married, and you do want to get married, that's a big flag right there.
Right.
And what we do at times is we compromise with the belief that maybe things will change in the future.
Most definitely. I've got a question for you. Let's say the people that do decide to live together, what is the percentage of those people that live together that turn into marriages other than the reason being they had children?
It seems that it's a pretty good number. 2/3 of the married couples today were cohabitating.
Really?
Couples.
So it is ending in marriage.
Well, that might just be because so many people are doing that.
But it's also there's
you're
not
wrong on your point.
There's a lot of research on both sides as to, okay, was it because of the level of commitments that actually cohabitating did work out for them? But it's a big number of the couples today. 2/3 is a large number that are ending into a marriage. Now, there's not a lot of research to see how long they've been married, if they're still married.
But they do take the plunge. Whether or not they actually stick with it is
Right.
something undetermined yet.
And a lot of the beliefs that they say, that I don't want to get married because I don't want to have all the financial burden. I don't want to think about the things that are going to be splitting up afterwards, if things don't work out. And the reality is, even if you're living together, you're already financially enmeshed.
Right, that's what I'm
You're
saying.
already sharing bills. Someone may have the rent on their name, so you're already enmeshed. So the belief is because of the money. It's kind of like a denial.
Right.
If that's the reason why you don't want to get married. And what I tell my couple is that really talk about it. You really have to communicate and really unload your baggage. We all come in with emotional baggage and from our family of origin, and maybe we have some hurts, some wounds that we haven't healed yet. Maybe it's divorce of our parents, maybe other relationships that did not turn out well, that I think it's very important to kind of work through that before you move in together.
Right.
Well, my question about moving in, and I'm not really sure if it's even a question, is the fact that you're stating here about how the couples that you see, they mesh their finances, and we all know that divorce, which is, I want to say 51% right now in the U.S.
Yes.
A lot of it ends up in finance because of the finances. And I'm thinking that if you did live together, wouldn't those habits, if you started living together, you would see those habits before you decided to get married.
And be able to say yay or nay to it.
Yes, because obviously, if I know 51% of marriages end up in divorce and primarily because of finances, I'm going to want to make sure that the person that I'm with or potentially going to marry is maybe not just financially set, but also financially responsible.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And I do want that to be known. I'm not just saying, you know, move in with someone because it might or may not happen, but you do want to know their habits.
Yeah.
Maybe not just finances, maybe just, you know, will he clean up after himself if that's important to you?
Only
Right.
for a short time, I tell you
Yeah.
that.
or will he help with some of the chores? Because that's, for me, is very important. I'm not doing all the chores. Yeah.
So that's so you can have that conversation before you bring in the moving trucks. That's what before you do that, because those are, you're setting your boundaries, you're setting what's important to you. It's not that I'm not want to be with you if you have a $50,000 debt, but I want to hear from you, how have you been planning on paying that off? What does that mean when we're together? So those are the conversations that you do have to have before you move in together, before you do get married.
But what if they're lying? Like, I mean, like, you know, point blank, men lie. And they'll, you know, tell you what you want to hear in the beginning stages until it gets real and you actually see what their actions are going to be. Like, I mean, most times that takes, like, living together. Because, I mean, they can tell me all day, yeah, I've got the $50,000 debt, but I'm paying X amount and I pay it on time. And the fact of the matter is, no, you're not.
Right.
But I don't see that until I'm, like, up close and personal with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Right, yeah. And that's actually, in the part of that conversation, and especially with finances, I I ask when I'm doing premarital counseling, if you shared credit scores yet. Have you come clean with each other? And finances, it's a tough subject,
Yes,
and
it
we're
is.
ashamed of the choices that we made.
because it's not a business. That's
So-
Corley's running joke.
So
Sorry.
you can share. You should share your credit scores. You should say, let's put this on the table. Let's talk about it. Not just take it in for word. And when you address that, it's you are assertive. You are gentle. You're not condemning that person for the mistakes that they made, but okay, this is the reality, and us living together, this is what's going to be for the next 5 years. So then you have to be true to yourself. Do I
Right.
want to put myself through this situation?
So do you recommend that premarital counseling, like, prior to moving in as well? Because, I mean, I think that
Yes.
would work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Marta,
All right.
I want to ask you, what do you think is the reasons that this is becoming more acceptable? Because as we saw, like, you know, in our grandparents' time, this was not an acceptable practice. But now, all of a sudden, it's as if everybody accepts it to be the norm. You know, I spoke to a teenage daughter. No, not my daughter. Sorry, my daughter's friend, and I asked her, "Oh, you know, we were just talking about this topic," and she was just saying, "Yeah, that's normal. That's fine. I think that's a good idea." And it just, I think a lot of teenagers just think it's a good idea nowadays because it's just acceptable.
Right.
You know, it's the norm. It's so. What is our spirituality falling down? Is it just, what do you think is the main reason that as a nation we are more tolerable to this?
I think there are many components coming together, and
Okay.
I think we are evolving as a society. Back in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of divorces happening. There were ugly, dirty divorces. So the kids now that they're in their 20s or 30s, they were the ones that have the parents that were going through a divorce. So now they probably were cohabitating. They had probably children outside of their marriage.
Yeah.
So now that's what the teens are seeing now. My parents were never married.
Right, and it just
Okay,
follows that
so-
pattern.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, well, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
clarification, Marta. Well, our email bag is up next. Stay tuned and see what you said about our last show. This is Point of View.